More on China. Let's get to our Beijing bureau chief, Eunice, who's at CNBC headquarters today. Talk a bit about what this means in the broad context of their economy. Morning, Eunice.
Hey, guys. Yeah, I was thinking about what you were talking about. And, Jim, you and I have spoken about this a bit. But one of the big reasons why you don't see the Chinese government right now really going in and trying to sort things out is because of the cost involved. So I think there are a lot of people who say that this could be trillions of dollars, or that there isn't a lot of transparency on exactly how big a cost this would be to the Chinese government. So that's one huge hurdle that the government has. And then in addition to that, you guys were kind of suggesting this, it's the political issue. So if you saw drastic action on the part of the government, that would hurt a lot of average people, which would be unsettling to the leadership, the Communist Party. And then you're not even talking about just average Chinese people, but also some of the bigger vested interests, so the state-owned enterprises or the big banks there. So it's just that level of uncertainty is quite unsettling for a Communist Party that wants it to be in power for a very long time, and also is increasingly, again, Jim, you were suggesting this about the one-man rule, but wanting to present themselves to the Chinese public as infallible. So if you're infallible and then you're creating all these issues and people are starting to see it, it becomes a political issue for the Communist Party.
Well, Eunice, the thing that I wonder about is how the heck does Moody's know anything? I mean, none of us know anything. What, Moody's just decided, well, we've read a lot of bad articles, so therefore we better put it under review?
I mean, I would guess that they're looking at the same things that we're looking at. They do have an office still in China. They've significantly downsized, though, in 2022, where they don't have as many people who are looking closely at what's happening there. But they are citing the worries about these medium-term risks. And as you guys had pointed out, the downsizing of the property sector, it just seems to me to be more of a reflection of what a lot of investors are feeling, that they do see these property issues kind of cropping up more and more, and that it might be inevitable that the government would have to, in some way, try to sort out issues on a local level. I mean, the government has already said that they are disappointed with Moody's, that they said that they believe that these concerns are unnecessary. And in fact, they said that they were specific in a press briefing in China, saying that the local finances and the real estate problems are controllable. So, we don't know if there's going to be backlash against Moody's. I was kind of wondering about that, and so far there isn't. But it is something that the government is looking at right now.
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, I'm just listening to the Backlash. I mean, Backlash. Well, I mean, what are they going to do? I mean,
well, increasing. I mean, it's hard to know because there's not a lot of official take on that. But it's just that increasingly it's more difficult to be critical of the Chinese government, of their actions, especially when it comes, well, not even especially when it comes to the economy. I mean, I remember that years and years ago, one of the safe areas was always business news or talking about the economy. But increasingly, because the government feels sensitive about how things are going with the economy, if you do make a call the way that Moody's is making, you take on some risk within the country.
Hey, Eunice, just real quickly, given we're going to talk to you again when you are back in China, are you able to say those kinds of things there that you're saying here?
Yeah.
Should we expect that you have a more difficult job ahead for you?
No, I mean, I speak the same way here as I do. I mean, there as I do here. I don't know whether or not we're being censored or not right now. But I mean, I feel that it's our obligation, right, to just say what we see and to speak freely.
Certainly the way we feel in this country, Eunice. We're lucky to have you there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm lucky to have you in the building at Inglewood Cliffs for the time being, Eunice, at our headquarters.